Welcome to the next episode of So That Reminds Me, Reminder Publishing's bi-weekly podcast discussing Western Mass news. I'm Dennis Hackett.
And I'm Tyler Garnett.
And we'll be your hosts for today's episode. In this episode, we're going to talk about a few of the interesting topics happening in Western Massachusetts. But before we get into that, Tyler, how are you?
Things are going well. Can't complain so far. A lot of fun events we've attended recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you listeners might be a little confused that it's me and Tyler this week. Peyton had to take this week off because of some other work, but here we are. We are pushing along and we're ready to get right back into it. But before we really get into today's topics, we did want to take a few minutes to kind of reflect and talk about September 11th, which is today. When you're listening to it, it'll have already passed, but it's one of those things that got to acknowledge and recognize every year.
Absolutely. I mean, I know myself and you as well, we were kind of young, so I don't remember too much from the tragic events and attacks that took place that day. But, you hear all the stories that came out after the fact of the first responders going, back into buildings or just other bystanders lending a hand as well, because, it's a event unlike any other that has really taken place, the terrorist attacks that took place. So, even 23 years later, you still remember, I'm sure so many people remember where they were that day, what took place, what they were feeling. So it's definitely something, all the ceremonies that take place afterwards. I mean, I was at a remembrance ceremony in Chicopee this morning, seeing all the first responders come together is really a touching tribute to, those who sacrificed their lives.
Yeah, for years, I always went to the Northampton one. The couple years that I was there, I did East Hamptons last year, and it's always just, you see so many people come out to kind of support not only like the first responders in our area, but to kind of recognize, the horrible attacks and just to never forget it really, and just, keep moving along and making sure that we don't lose sight of something that was shattering to our country, really. Absolutely.
And, there's definitely so many people out there who were affected in one way or another. And, a lot of the first responders that day are definitely still facing some consequences of, helping out. So, just want to be able to remember and recognize and, thank all those brave men and women who risked their lives on that day to save others.
Yeah, I just remember being in preschool that day, coming home, my mom telling me that something bad had happened. I didn't really obviously understand much at that point. But I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I just vividly remember watching the early 2000s Justice League animated series that day. And it was, I think it had just started or something, and it just sticks out in my head. And that's why I remember that day. I don't know. It's two big things, I guess. But.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, I was only about 2 years old, so I obviously don't remember anything. But, obviously every year between the different ceremonies or, different videos, documentaries, whatever, on the event itself, you definitely learn just how traumatic this event was.
Yeah. And then somebody who's from, me being somebody who's from a family with a lot of first responders, like my dad and my grandpa were both police officers. It's kind of a day that, you kind of hug those family members a little closer and, hope that nothing like this ever happens again.
Absolutely.
So bringing things back to Western Mass, last night Tyler and I attended the Big E Media Party alongside Peyton, Lauren LaBelle, Sarah Hainonen, Chris Mazza was there, and we got to test out some of the new food and get some of the tasty drinks that they have there. So that was a good time for us.
Yeah, just another great perk of the job. Obviously, a few weeks ago, they had the Big E Media Taste kind of debuting, all the new food coming to the fair this year. So we got to try all that early. Make sure to check that out online or the article in the paper, as well as the TikTok.
Check out the TikTok if you guys haven't. Check out the TikTok,
Reminder Publishing. Yeah, checking out all the new food this year. But yeah, this one was just like kind of a little more laid back and a little less work, Yeah. And they debuted the new $3 bite promo, which I learned about as well, where you can just have these new bites. So they had, pizza, steak sandwiches, pierogies, kielbasa on like a hot dog bun. And then obviously they had some other food as well. And then, the wine slushies, I think, were definitely something that I took away from the event.
Those were awesome. I had a lemon and a lime one, or not lime, pineapple, and they were both really good. Tyler had a watermelon one. I'm pretty sure that's the one I had the last time I went, and I remember it being good. But yeah. And then was there anything from the food that really stood out to you that you really enjoyed that you might go back for a bite at the Biggie?
I think I would definitely get a slice of pizza. I mean, they were cut into 16ths, so it was definitely snack sized, and you could walk around with it, and it was New York style. So
yeah,
definitely something I've enjoyed. I grew up with, so I love very much. And then everything else just for $3, a small little bite. Walking around the fair, I think it would be perfect for. So honestly, all of them I look forward to. Again, they were that delicious.
Yeah, and I think that's such a huge promotion because, a lot of the stuff at the Biggie can be pretty expensive. So having this option to kind of taste test a bunch of different things, I think will be pretty cool for a cheaper price.
Absolutely.
For me, I really like the pierogies, though. They might be a little tougher to carry around, but they were potato and cheese, and they were just phenomenal.
Which is just perfect. You can't go wrong. And obviously then, the capper at the end of the night was when they brought out the desserts. They had the eclairs and then the cream puffs, just the cookies and cream puffs, which were definitely something I recommend anyone to have this year.
Yeah, as I'm sure many of you listeners have seen in a story we did a few weeks ago, we raved about the cookies and cream puff, and since then I've been continuing to rave about it, and it was something I was very much looking forward to yesterday. But unfortunately, I grabbed the last one, and Tyler and Lauren were unfortunately unable to have one. So I felt bad, but I had to do what I had to do.
Listen, I don't blame you because it was just that good. But you did mention the person in front of you did grab two halves themselves. So, unfortunate, but all is forgiven. And I'll just have to get another one or two or five when I go to the fair this year.
Absolutely. I did feel bad for Lauren, though, because she didn't go to the taste that we all went to and we all got to try them.
Yes, and then, true.
Unfortunately, did not get one at the media party yesterday, but I'm sure the regular ones were good too.
They were delicious. You can't really go wrong with those as well.
Yeah. All right, and let's move into this week's topics. So Adam Gomez defeated Mallow Brown, and Bud Williams defeated Johnny McKnight in a couple of Springfield primary election races. A Ware Select Board member had his voter eligibility complaint dismissed. Several communities recognized Overdose Awareness Day. West Springfield is bringing back its Firehouse fundraiser at the Biggie, and the play Next to Normal comes to Ludlow at the end of this month. But before we get into our first topic, we're going to take a quick break.
Small businesses are the heartbeat of our communities, and at the first annual Go Local Marketplace, over 20 local makers will be bringing what they do best to brew practitioners for all to enjoy. From food trucks to live music and more, Go Local Marketplace will be your place to shop small with friends and family in tow. Go Local Marketplace will take place on Saturday, October 5th from 1 to 5 p.m. at Brew Practitioners in East Long Meadow. Parking and admission to the event is free. Bring your friends and family to Go Local Marketplace and enjoy the best of what our small business community has to offer.
Since the founding of Reminder Publishing over 60 years ago, the Reminder has brought local businesses together with their customers through our advertising and coverage. Over the past 4 years, the Reminder has been adding to its reporting and expanding our readership, while other newspapers in the region, state, and country have scaled back or closed. We want local community journalism to thrive and grow, and are asking our readers and listeners to support and participate. The Reminder Press Club's mission is to ensure that local journalism is sustainable and leading healthy community discussions. The Reminder Press Club is a way for you to support the crucial work of professional reporters covering the vital stories in our community. Learn more about the Reminder Press Club or join at reminderpressclub.com.
And we're back with our first topic of this week's episode. Two of this year's few contested races in the region came to a close with the primary election on September 3rd when Adam Gomez defeated Springfield City Councilor Mallow Brown to retain his state Senate seat, while Bud Williams defeated Johnny McKnight to keep his state representative position. The Gomez-Brown race encompassed Springfield and parts of Chicopee, with Gomez winning 7,177 to 3,100. While the Williams-McKnight race was limited to Springfield, with Williams winning 1,748 to 1,523. Neither Williams nor Gomez are facing a challenger in the general election.
While a quieter race, the margin of victory for Williams showed that people are willing to listen to other voices for a seat that Williams has held since 2016. Williams, however, did not seem to be affected by the close margin and said that a win is a win after the results were finalized. He added that he was excited to go back to Beacon Hill and continue his work there.
For McKnight's part, he declined to speak with Reminder Publishing after the results were announced and referred questions to his campaign manager, Tom Hendrickson. Hendrickson said that the results showed an interest and energy behind a new voice. He also cited Williams' advantage in campaign fundraising as a major factor in his victory.
While there was a much larger margin of victory in the race between Gomez and Brown, that race was not without its own fireworks. At his campaign event after his victory, Gomez said that the rhetoric from Brown's campaign was disheartening, but said he was ready to continue to work on the House bonding bill that was passed in June, passing an economic development bond bill, and getting to the root causes of gun violence and finding solutions.
Speaking of the fireworks and the contentious nature between the two campaigns, things really came to a head in a debate televised on Focus Springfield back in August. During that debate, Brown leveraged several personal attacks at Gomez, including an ethics complaint about treating his staff to meals at Hooters and Shake Shack, included in $20,000 in campaign funds that was spent at restaurants. In response to this, Gomez brought up his own ethical concerns about Brown, specifically over instances of voting on state funding as a city councilor when he's an employee of the legislature and works for Bud Williams.
That wasn't the end of the attacks in the debate, as Brown also falsely alleged that Gomez had previously been incarcerated, which he had not been. To that claim, Gomez responded, "You're cooked, bro."
As Mike Dobbs said in his column this week, he most certainly was. After his defeat, Brown did say that he'll be back, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. For more election coverage on these races, as well as other results, head to thereminder.com.
For our next topic, we'll be discussing a complaint regarding whether Ware Select Board member Terrence Smith is an eligible voter. The Board of Registrars hosted a public hearing after a complaint was filed by fellow Ware Select Board member Joshua Kuzniers. After an hour-long discussion and statements from Smith, Kuzniers, audience members, and attorneys, the board unanimously voted to dismiss the complaint after they had all the information.
Looking at the information, Kuzniers said he filed the complaints to see if Smith was still allowed to serve as an elected official who could vote on issues after a lot of concerned residents reached out to him about the status of Smith's residency. After providing an affidavit, Smith said he had been living out of Shutesbury because of divorce proceedings, but stated he intends to move back to Ware. Town Clerk Nancy Talbot read Smith's affidavit out loud, which confirmed he filed a complaint for divorce in March. As part of that proceeding, the Massachusetts Probate and Family Court Justice issued a temporary order on May 17th that said his wife would occupy the Ware property and Smith would occupy the Shutesbury property. The temporary order denied him access to his house on Old Poor Farm Road.
Although residents started to accept that all the information provided proved he was voter eligible, some residents expressed they felt it wasn't right that Smith could temporarily live somewhere else and still serve Ware. Most said they felt duped that his election papers included his Ware address. It was confirmed that any visits to the Ware property that took place prior to May 17th would have been at his own discretion, and it was not until after the election that he was legally barred from that residency. Talbot said Smith's nomination papers were received on February 16th with his Old Poor Farm Road address. Many residents took the time to express their displeasure in the location of Smith before, during, and after the election.
It was ultimately decided that based on all the information provided, the Board of Registrars had no evidence to uphold the complaint and voted to dismiss it. Attorney Connor Carey of the firm Bacon Wilson was representing Smith and talked about the information in the binder, including a residence for voting purposes document from the Secretary of the Commonwealth website for evidence that Smith was doing nothing wrong.
Besides providing the information of Smith's bank accounts, utility bills, and mail items having his Ware address, Carey said, "The Massachusetts law requires that you consider certain facts. It's not just where he lives or where he physically is located, it's where his domicile is. That's the question for you. It lays out the law that you're supposed to consider in these circumstances. Mr. Smith's affidavit before you are clear. His home is in Ware, he pays taxes in Ware, he pays utilities in Ware, he owns property in Ware, he comes to Ware every day, his bank is in Ware, he goes grocery shopping in Ware, he has friends in Ware, he attends a town meeting in Ware, he has documented status of serving in Ware, and no one in this room can change the domicile of Mr. Smith." And this was just a quote. I did attend this meeting that I think kind of just brought everything together and showed the board that they had no factual evidence to, take this claim seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. This is definitely an interesting situation where you have issues come up like this, like especially around an election. I'm sure that led to a lot of emotions from voters in town. Is there anything from that at the meeting that you kind of noticed?
Yeah, I kind of noticed it not only at that meeting, but covering previous meetings about, topics not even relating to this. But this complaint and public hearing was set maybe a month prior to obviously it taking place. And, covering other meetings, other select board meetings, anytime he would talk or they would have public input, a lot of, residents kind of talked about it or had subtle digs or jokes, mentioning his whereabouts and him living in Shutesbury and stuff, especially when he wasn't present and he was joining the call on Zoom. So, those was obviously there. And, the room was obviously filled for the meeting. And, you could kind of tell everyone had, their own emotions and, they were showing a lot of their opinions, throughout the entire thing. But once, the attorney for Smith, he provided about a 60-page binder, with all these different facts and evidence that he still is a resident of Ware. That's when they started to say they felt more duped more than anything about, voting for someone who lived out of town because they feel like they would have, a lot of them expressed that they would have voted differently knowing that he didn't physically live in Ware.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that. I think just the uncertainty probably unsettled a lot of people, just not knowing. But obviously, we don't know the situation with the divorce, but that's not a great thing to have that kind of be drawn into such a public topic like that, especially in a town like Ware where people probably know each other pretty well.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing. Like, I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about his background. I don't know anything about the divorce, so I'm not going to say anything about that. But I can only imagine if I was going through a tough point in my life, I would kind of want to keep it private to myself. And to have to sit in this room and kind of state why you're not living at your Ware address anymore and to kind of hash out all the divorce proceedings all over again in the public, not only in the room, but it was being recorded on the Ware TV. So that thing is live streamed and recorded and can be viewed for the rest of time. So definitely a tough situation for everyone involved.
Well, this will definitely be a situation we monitor in the future as well if anything comes up with the next time he's up for election or anything like that. So something to keep an eye on. And as always, you can check it out on thereminder.com. For this week's next topic, several communities in the region recognized Overdose Awareness Day with several ceremonies between August 28th and August 30th, including in Westfield, Holyoke, and Chicopee. Each year, International Overdose Awareness Day is commemorated on August 31st, and the month is typically recognized the final week of August. In Massachusetts, overdose deaths are a significant concern, as there are, on average, 2,210 overdose deaths every year, and the overdose death rate is 32.1 per 100,000 residents, which is 55% higher than the national average.
While I was at the flag raising honoring the month in Chicopee, Mayor John View said this was a tradition that he will proudly spread awareness about as long as he is the mayor. He also recognized the work delegates and the legislature are doing to combat the opioid crisis and preventing overdoses. View added that overdoses are an epidemic and said he was glad, quote, "We are making this Awareness Day something special."
Over in Holyoke, a flag raising was conducted at Mira Vista Behavioral Health Center in conjunction with Hope for Holyoke. During the raising, Mira Vista Chief of Strategy and Development, Kim Lee, discussed what the day means. She said that it was a time to remember those lost to drug overdose, the families and friends that are left behind, and to, quote, spread the hopeful message that the tragedy of overdose death is preventable.
At the Holyoke event, Recovery Services client Ryan Specht spoke about his experience with sobriety and overcoming drug addiction, after he shared that he overdosed twice before he got clean. He also touched on erasing the stigma of overdose, calling it a disease, and saying that, quote, there is nothing shameful about getting help.
At a vigil in Westfield on August 29th in Park Square, State Senator John Vilas, who chairs the Joint Committee on Mental Health, Substance Use, and Recovery in the legislature, encouraged people to say that they need help if they are struggling after he shared that 5 people in his contact list had died from an overdose since the last vigil.
Kimberly Slade, Westfield's Substance Abuse Outreach Coordinator, said there have been 26 overdoses in the city so far this year. She also said that addressing opioids, which are a leading cause of overdoses, means addressing all social determinants of health, including a person's sense of community, housing options, transportation availability, and employment opportunities.
Yeah, so this is obviously a difficult topic. Overdose is always sad. But really, I like when I was putting together our script for this episode and going through each of the ceremonies, one thing that really stood out to me was that we still need to kind of erase the stigma of not only overdose, but addiction and seeking help when you really need it, even if you're hesitant to take that step because I won't say like try to get into somebody's head in that situation, but like when it might be difficult for you to try to seek that help that you need.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, reading through all the different communities who had a event to recognize, the day and the month, they all talked about erasing the stigma because it's got to be tough. I have not dealt with this myself, but I can only imagine for the people, struggling with addiction, struggling with using and stuff like that, it's got to be tough to take that first step. So, for all the people who have overcome and is sober or, have dealt with their addiction, it's great for them to come out and kind of explain the steps that they took to be where they are today. And, hopefully that leads people to, find a better life for themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really hope these types of things kind of inspire people. They're not only seek help themselves, but if you know somebody, maybe sit down with them and be like, hey, like, this is really, affecting you and we want you to get help, and to kind of make them understand that it's not like a sign of weakness to ask for help when you're dealing with something like this,
Yeah, definitely. And, even at just a Chicopee event itself, obviously the mayor talked a lot about all the different services. There were a couple different representatives from different organizations within just Chicopee itself, nonprofits, places you can go to help, if you need it. Yeah. And, they can even offer you services or other help as well. So I think it's important, too, that, you touched on it. There's so many delegates in Massachusetts who have a lot to offer, or places you can go to help. So anyone who may be listening or reading some of those articles and you do need help, feel free to reach out, because there's definitely plenty of organizations out there to help you.
And one thing I did want to bring up is one person's office I think you could probably always go to is John Vilas. He's really kind of not only for veterans, but like coming from his own experiences with like substance abuse and recovery. And I know he talked about a couple of these ceremonies being sober for a long time now. His office probably always has somebody that'll be able to help you put you in contact with somebody to, get you some help if you need it. So I would encourage anybody to really reach out to there or look online and try to find any resources if you're struggling and you're trying to get yourself to make that step to seek help.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially because some of the numbers, you read just in Massachusetts alone are kind of alarming, and I know it's not just a Massachusetts problem. It's a problem all across the country, but considering, we cover Western Mass News, that's, what we're focusing on. But anyone listening, obviously not Massachusetts, any state, definitely seek some of these organizations out if you're looking to take that next step into recovery.
Absolutely. And for more information about these ceremonies, head to thereminder.com. Before our next topic, we're going to take a short break.
We get it. You're busy, but you want to be connected to your local community. If you're not reading The Reminder, Western Mass's free weekly newspaper, you're missing out on the heartbeat of your town. Stay in the loop with all the latest buzz, from local stories to community updates and exciting events. It's all in The Reminder. Just log on to thereminder.com and dive into the hometown news you love. To subscribe to receive The Reminder at your home, call 413-788-1316. Don't miss a beat. Your town, your stories, your community for over 60 years. The Reminder. We are hometown news. Are you planning your second act? Working on your bucket list? Investing for early retirement? If you've hit that point in life where time will soon be yours, let Prime Magazine be your guide. We're all about staying healthy and fit, keeping up with tech, traveling, local entertainment, managing finances, caring for your kids and elders, and much more. Pick up the latest copy of Prime Magazine every month. Prime, your best life now.
And we're back. For our fourth topic, we will be talking about the West Springfield Fire Department operating their own firehouse restaurant at this year's Big E. Fairgoers who check out the restaurant can enjoy real firehouse food in a large eat-in dining room. The fire department will be serving breakfast and lunch along with a variety of snacks and soft-serve ice cream. West Springfield is the only fire department running a restaurant at the Big E and has been a fixture on Hamden Avenue for 60 years. The eatery will be across from the New England Center building.
Well, it's known for its unique setting. It's not just a restaurant. It's also a working West Springfield firehouse known as Station 4. Attached to the dining room is a single bay for a West Springfield Fire Department fire truck that sits ready to roll throughout the 17-day run of the fair. West Springfield Fire Lieutenant Evan Culver said that on any given day on the fair, there are 18 to 20 firefighters throughout the fairgrounds, including those at Station 4 and the restaurant. They respond to all fire, medical, and rescue emergencies throughout the fairground. He said in addition to the one fire engine at Station 4, the department also staffs 1 to 2 ambulances, a fire apparatus dedicated to the circus, and several medical utility task vehicles at the Big E.
The brick structure was constructed by West Springfield Fire Department members and opened as a coffee and gift shop for the fair's 1964 season. It replaced 2 tents that the department had used, one for serving coffee and donuts, and a second that sheltered a fire truck. Culver added that the idea to build a restaurant came from the members of the West Springfield Permanent Firefighters Relief Association. All proceeds from the restaurant benefit the Relief Association, which is a charitable organization composed of active and retired West Springfield firefighters. When the Relief Association was started in 1947, it provided a death and retirement benefit to assist families of former West Springfield Department members.
All 77 members of the West Springfield Fire Department volunteer some of their time during the fair to help run the restaurant. And there are also many retirees who come back every year to help. Each year, Culver said the restaurant serves 5,000 to 8,000 meals. All food, beverages, and supplies needed to run it are purchased by the department from vendors at the Big E or local businesses. Culver said the restaurant is always busy on Salute to West Springfield Day, the first Monday of the fair, but the middle Saturday is typically the busiest day of the year for them. See, I think this is a cool thing. You know, obviously the Big E is such a big thing, but there's so many local businesses and local organizations that really try to, localize the event so that you see people, there. And obviously seeing a fire department there serving food, slinging hot dogs and burgers and stuff. I think it's definitely a cool community way to see that your fire department in kind of a different way. Yeah, I think what they're doing is really good to raise money for death and retirement benefits for their families and everything.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, I know a few volunteer firefighters and stuff, and I've hung out at their main annex, and just the atmosphere is always great. So I can only imagine just sitting in this place, them serving just, classic burgers and hot dogs and some soft-serve ice cream. I think it would just be a place to check out and just hang out, honestly, for a little while with all these people. But besides that, it's got to be a fun fundraiser because just serving food and, I think it's really cool, too, that it serves as a fire station itself for the grounds. So you can be cooking 1 second and, God forbid there's an emergency itself. You might have to act quickly. But, this is just another cool thing I've mentioned a few times. I am still new to the Big E. Growing up on Long Island, I've only been, at the paper for a couple of years. So, anything with the Big E is really interesting to me. And this is definitely one of those things I want to check out this year. Yeah,
no, me too. There was a long time where I didn't go to the Big E. I've kind of started to get back into the swing of things since I started here. 5 years ago now. But yeah, this is definitely something I'll check out. And obviously I want to see, other things. It's like the list gets bigger and bigger every year, what you want to see and what you want to taste. And, you only have so much time and enough room in your stomach for so much food.
Yeah, literally. I mean, you always, when you tell other people how long the Big E lasts, it's like a few weeks. But then you spend 2 days there and you think you've seen it all. And then you can come back the next day and you see 10 more things. Like you said, there's 10 more drinks or food items to try. So it's definitely something I look forward to. That as of recording, I mean, the Big E starts today, technically, right? It's 13th.
No, it starts on Friday.
But I'm saying when this drops.
Oh, yeah. When this is dropped. Yeah, you guys will be enjoying the Big E.
Hopefully you guys enjoy the Big E because it will be opening today. But it's something I'm looking forward to checking out. This specifically, I definitely want to try and go over to the Firehouse Restaurant itself because not only do you get to try some good food, but the money's going to a good cause as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And for this week's final topic, we're going to be discussing a production by Exit 7 Players, Next to Normal, which comes to the stage in Ludlow beginning on September 27th. The play is the story of Diana Goodman and her family recovering from the death of her infant son from an undiagnosed intestinal obstruction. Goodman has lived with bipolar depressive disorder and delusional episodes for the past 17 years, which has affected everyone in her life and has nearly torn apart her family.
With some tough subject matter, the production was done in partnership with Florence-based nonprofit Empty Arms Bereavement, which offers community and support services to individuals and families who have experienced infant loss, miscarriage, stillbirth, or medical termination, according to Empty Arms director and founder Carol McMurrich.
Empty Arms offers support through three main avenues: in-hospital services, support groups, and training for healthcare professionals. Their in-hospital services include on-call counselors at the time of the loss of a baby in Hampshire, Hamden, and Franklin County hospitals. In terms of support groups, Empty Arms offers a variety of ways to help people deal with all facets of the loss of a child, from the stillbirth and infant loss support group to an expecting your next baby support group. All the groups are offered online over Zoom.
In addition to support for the parents, Empty Arms also provides support materials for loved ones to help grandparents or other family members get through such a difficult time. McMurrich added that the loss of a child affects everyone that was expecting the child. In addition to supporting families, Empty Arms also offers training to healthcare workers to support families experiencing loss at the hospital.
Annually, the organization supports around 50 to 60 families through in-hospital care and 400 individuals through support groups. Services are available at any time, whether it is after a baby is born or even years after experiencing the loss. For more information, head to emptyarmsbereavement.org.
And for tickets to the Next to Normal play, head to exit7players.org.
So yeah, while obviously this is, a really sensitive topic, I love that they're using art as a way to kind of, show something that, is maybe a difficult topic for people to speak about, but just seeing that there's an organization out there that's so dedicated to helping families any way that they need help after losing a child, and combining that with a play, I think is really awesome.
Yeah, I think it's always great when a play can kind of get a message out there as well, because, so many people, we've talked about many plays on this podcast before, so, people do enjoy going to see plays, but, besides just enjoying a night out, I mean, there's a message to be had here within this one. I mean, this is not something that I know anyone who has been affected by personally, but I have seen many videos of people talking about their bouts with bipolar depressive disorder, and something scary, to kind of deal with on top of everything else. And then, obviously having an infant loss, miscarriage, stillbirth, anything like that is definitely something not only sad for the mother herself, but everyone involved, like, they mentioned here in the article, because if everyone's expecting the child, and an unfortunate thing happens, how do you deal with that? So
yeah. No, it's really great. I hadn't heard of Empty Arms before reading this article, but just seeing the work they do, it's just outstanding to see how they tackle every facet of it, whether it's, the family directly, like the mother and the father, their extended family, offering support groups, but then also really training healthcare workers to deal with these situations, because I don't know that a lot of times healthcare workers are really equipped for emotional, like they'll probably need some support too to really deal with something like this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously I enjoyed that part as well. I mean, it being accessible, having some classes offered online on Zoom too, so you can really fit into your schedule. I mean, I'm sure if you're going through such a tough time, it might be even tough to get yourself in the car to the event, so you can just be in the comfort of your home on Zoom. But I did also enjoy too, not only do they support the families, but the healthcare workers themselves as well. I mean, I know depending what field or aspect of healthcare you're in, you might deal with some stuff like this every day, so no matter how many times you deal with it, I mean, you don't become numb to it. It's still sad seeing the emotions of the families, and you have to be able to have the support to not only help them, but help you help them as well, because I personally couldn't imagine knowing what to say to someone, who went through this. So this is definitely something, Empty Arms, I'm sure, is doing a great job at. And it's nice to see the partnership between the play, the theater, and Empty Arms itself.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I really love that it's kind of a cross-county, relationship where it's like this play is being presented in Ludlow, but Empty Arms is a Florence-based organization, so you can really get a broader reach for people that are going to a play in Ludlow and checking out everything that Exit 7 has, and then also like introducing them to an organization that's doing great work. So I just really wanted to thank Empty Arms for what they do, because seriously, this is like the type of work that is essential really to help people through extremely difficult times.
Absolutely. And something we kind of mentioned already on the podcast, if you or someone is dealing or struggling with something along the same lines that Empty Arms is able to help out, make sure to reach out to them and, seek some services they might be able to provide.
Yeah, absolutely. And that wraps up another episode of So That Reminds Me.
Thanks for listening, and we'll be back in a couple weeks with our next episode.
Thanks for listening to So That Reminds Me, produced by Western Massachusetts news source Reminder Publishing. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, find the latest news at thereminder.com, and follow Reminder Publishing on Instagram at Reminder Publishing, on X at The Reminder MA, and on Facebook. Reminder Publishing, we are hometown news.